Register a protest.
I make a motion, we accept the agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We should have put something on here like, want to be home to watch the Bruins.
Well, that's okay, we will. The next
We might.
meeting's gonna be a long one.
Okay,
How do
Enjoy
you have to
this.
stick that in?
Well, just so enjoy this.
okay.
I'm looking at it and it's like, ooh.
So we have 36 and 36R Bailey's Causeway. What time do they start? Oh, 6:25, sorry, Greg.
You got 5
We can
minutes.
do an RDA.
RDA,
Do the
125
RDA.
Grove Street. Sure, let me hop up.
Oh, hi there. Good, how's
I mean, I just got to read the spiel here. Yeah, I got it. On June 3rd, 2019, during the 6:15 meeting at Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Jared Okay. For a determination of applicability to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws to spread gravel from driveway to shed and to street on property located at 125 Grove Street, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening. Good evening. So, let me just give us a little lowdown on what you're doing.
Yeah, so no problem. So as the plan shows, my driveway used to be gravel stone, and I'm literally just moving it from the driveway adjacent to the driveway and my shed and out to the road. If I spread, so repurposing the gravel from the existing roadway to sort of eliminate, it's just a muddy area, turnaround. A lot of people turn around in my driveway, so just eliminate the muddy area and sort of the way it slopes down to the wetlands area, just runoff in general. Trying to just eliminate that by spreading gravel to have like a steady parking and turnaround area.
If anybody would like to look, there's some photos here of what he'd like to do.
Yep, so it's a 42-foot wide spread area that puts me 100 feet per the Mass GIS mapping from the wetlands protected area. So I'm just trying to avoid going within that buffer zone.
Yeah, so this was one that I picked up on a drive-by, and my assessment of it was that he was closer than 100, and that this alteration, there was some cutting of trees and whatever, leveling of area by his shed, that had happened probably by the previous owner, so that he had inherited this condition. But as you go off the side of this area down towards the stream that flows down there, it does get wet. Now, so we didn't have him have a professional wetland assessment. We're just going off of the GIS layer. And I think that, I mean, he's safely beyond 50, but I wouldn't say I still not sure I concur that it's 100 that he's off.
I did tape it off and stake it out. It's currently staked right now. And again,
Right, but-
it's tough to determine exactly where the wetlands start, to your point.
Yeah, so, because this,
I
as
just-
shown on the GIS layer, they're not always 100% accurate. In
We know
fact,
that.
but anyways, it's close. And for purposes of a negative determination and for what he wants to do, which is keep what he's got there, and spreading the gravel, I think we could conclude a negative 3. That the work.
Yeah, it's not foreign material, I guess.
No, it'd probably help reduce runoff
He's gonna
in
bring more in.
soil runoff
No,
too,
no.
if you get.
Oh,
What's there is there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought,
It's repurposed, not rebought.
It's,
yes, repurposed, okay.
repurposed.
Yeah.
So yeah, the point is to try and prevent, right now, there's like
Yeah.
runnels, you can see, it washes stuff down
Right.
in that area, so I'm hoping the gravel will kind of bind it all together and
Yes.
prevent it from running any further. And yes, I did inherit a condition, I just moved in last July.
Yeah.
So what's there was
I
there.
go by there all the time.
Where, at the edge of where you would put the gravel closest to the wetlands, is there anything that will stop that gravel from running over?
I mean, just what's existing. There's some wood chips that I think the previous owner had spread.
Okay, but there's no like edge lift, anything like that?
No, because it kind of slopes down, so I'm trying to create a level area by spreading the 3 inches of the existing gravel.
The gravels let's have to move and the wood chips.
I agree.
Try and keep the wood chips away from the slope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looks
Because
okay to
they
me.
will wash down.
They do right now.
Yeah.
The chips will wash quicker than the gravel.
You can
Yeah.
see there's like, especially after the rain we had.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Well, we've
runoffs.
had so much rain. Wood
So we
chips.
can pretty much assume, Amy, that the brook, that the Herring Brook is in the right spot on that map. So
Yeah.
It looks like it's about 180 feet.
From the brook
It
itself.
says 193, so it's
Yeah,
Give or take, yeah.
close to 200 feet.
yeah, and he's in the water, resource protection area.
Right. The Herring Brook is a source of water for the
Yeah,
town,
no,
so
understood.
it's afforded more protection than,
Completely understand, yeah. Amy explained that. She was very nice, came out and did a site walk with me to kind of explain the letter that I had received, that, you know, I'm just moving down from the city, so a little nerve wracking when I got a letter that said, you know,
Oh, boy, what did
on
I
blade
walk
grass for
into?
13
Welcome to
years.
Scituate, you're already in trouble, yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, I'm
good.
just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Repurpose the gravel.
appreciated.
It's not, nothing foreign material, I guess.
sure. Okay.
Anybody in the audience?
Anybody, yeah. Anybody else?
No.
Didn't draw any crowds tonight.
No, I make a motion for a -3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's a
Negative's
good thing.
good.
That's
Negative's
good, you
good.
want a negative.
Yeah.
You explained that, thank you.
Yeah, so now, the permit will be ready tomorrow, and then
Okay.
you can be cleared to finish.
Be good if you, when the permit, if you would, just post it somewhere,
Sure.
semi-visible in a window or something.
On the shed or something?
Yeah, another shed would be great.
Okay. Great. And I just come down here to pick it up?
Yes, right across the hall,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Can I, I'm just, do we want to even open 52 Central? It was withdrawn,
No,
No, if they
No.
withdrew it,
so we're
yeah.
done with that one.
yeah.
Okay.
Good work, Danny.
Just following the prompts here on the,
Yeah,
so, on June 3rd, 2019, at 6:25 PM in the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands. Can we actually do these together for tonight? I mean, it's really not, and I can open them individually.
I think you gotta read them both.
The Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, regarding the application of Richard and Janet Walden to raise and rebuild a single-family dwelling and construct associated driveway, grading, lawn, landscaping, and septic system located at 36 Bailey's Causeway, Scituate. Other interested parties are invited to attend. I am going to read the second one, because they pertain to one another. On June 3rd, 2019, at 6:30 PM, the Town Hall of Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, regarding the application of Richard and Janet Walden to raise and rebuild single-family dwelling and reconstruct an associated driveway, grading, lawn, landscape, and septic system located at 36R Bailey's Causeway, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Okay.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Gregory Morse. I'm a registered engineer with Morse Engineering, representing the property owner and applicant, Richard and Janet Walden. These are two notice of intents that we filed for 36 and 36 rear Bailey's Causeway. They're both the same scope of work for both sites. They're both consisting of a raise and rebuild of a single-family home, construction of a new septic system for the home, and construction of a driveway. Familiarizing you with the site, looking at the plan, Bailey's Causeway is at the bottom of the page. The property line is in black here. The front home I've highlighted in yellow. This is number 36. The back home, 36R, I've highlighted in yellow as well. When we first looked at this site, we went out, I'm going to pass some pictures around as well. We went out with our wetland scientist, Brad Holmes, who's a professional wetland scientist. We had him delineate the wetlands at the site. which we located by survey. Highlighted in blue, this is a salt marsh that was delineated by Brad. Off of that in red is the 50-foot, and in green the 100-foot. The site is entirely within a FEMA AE elevation 15. For way of reference, the topography on the lot, generally the front right corner is the highest point at approximately elevation 8. The salt marshes at the lowest point here is about elevation 5. Aside from the two houses on the property, there is some lawn area between the houses. There's some lawn area to the right of number 36. To the left of house number 36 is a gravel driveway, which serves as the driveway both for the front house and the rear house. Each house is located on, houses were constructed in about 1930 prior to any wetlands regulations being in place in the town or even the state. So looking at each...
When were they built, Greg, do you think?
1930s.
Did they get a permit to put foundations under them, do you know?
Yeah, back in 1991, there was an order of conditions issued for raising the two houses that were there. They raised them, they put foundations under them in 1991.
Thank you.
Yep. So, my client has owned the property since about 1979, and basically has maintained it in the same condition since that time. He's put some gravel on the driveway as that's eroded away over time. He's installed new water lines to each of the houses. He put new foundations under them in 1991, and he's maintained the lawn surfaces around them as they existed when he purchased them as well. So what we're proposing to do is take down the house in the front, number 36. We would put a new house approximately the same size. It's a 2-bedroom house, but it would be elevated up on piles. It would be the same setbacks to the wetland line to the proposed house.
Can you see this okay?
Yeah, come on up so you can see.
So number 36, the front house right now as it
You might want to
sits.
shift over a little bit so you can catch the corner.
So as it sits, the house on number 36 in the front, it's 23 feet from the edge of the wetlands. It would go back in the same physical location. It would still be 23 feet from the edge of the salt marsh. The septic system for that front house is located right behind the house right now. That's located at a distance of 24 feet from the wetlands. The new septic system that services both of these houses is actually located over here in the right side lawn area. It's located at 56 feet, so it gets it outside of the 50-foot buffer. Into our first floor, we're obviously bringing our habitable space into compliance. Right now, the habitable space in number 36 is at elevation 12.9, while FEMA is at 15. Our proposal with the piling foundation is to bring the first floor up to elevation 17, so it provides 2 feet of freeboard. Looking at the rear house,
So both of these properties are on the same lot?
no, they're each on their own individual lots. So,
Oh, I see, all right.
so there is a lot line between them.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the rear lot, number 36R, where that house sits right now, from the back of the house to the wetland, is a total distance of 7 feet. Our proposal is to pull that building forward and provide a 17-foot setback to the wetlands. The septic system is located within the salt marsh currently. The new septic system in the side yard over here would be located at 46 feet from the wetlands. And then our first floor elevation, that back house, elevation 12.9 as well, we'd be bringing that up to elevation 17. This is a site that, again, it predates all of the regulations. We're trying to site essentially a new septic system for each of the houses. We're trying to raise the elevations of the houses and get them in FEMA compliance. And we're trying to relocate the driveway as well. The driveway, which currently goes in on the left side between number 36 and the salt marsh, we've realigned to the right side of the property to provide access now to both of the houses. So the driveway has moved essentially outside of the 50-foot buffer in its new location. I understand Bob Gray, Sabatia Inc. was hired to go out and review this on behalf of the commission, specifically the wetland resource areas. I don't think he had any issues with Brad's flagging of the salt marsh at that location, but it did appear that he had some concerns with respect to the right side yard. The right side yard in these pictures, the second picture, right in here, which is a grassed area, and it's the area where we're proposing our new septic system. Does have some grasses that are considered wetland species. We did verify the elevations in there. We believe that they are above the high tide elevation. We don't believe that it is salt marsh, as he suggests within his initial review memo. So I know I need to provide some additional correspondence with that. The commission has looked at this area in the past. The commission has issued orders of conditions back in 1991. I will get a copy of that site plan, which does not include that as salt marsh. The commission also has a current valid order of conditions on the immediate lot next door, number 34 Bailey's Causeway, which did not include any of this area as salt marsh. And I was involved as well across the street at number 8 Buttonwood with a raise and rebuild, and it wasn't considered salt marsh. So I'll provide some additional information on that as a result of Bob's initial review. But we wanted to obviously open this up and get your comments and initial concerns.
Okay, okay.
Okay, you brought up 8 Buttonwood. I do know that at the time that all was done, the corner there was considered wetlands, and so that, of course, has to be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
I know it's across the street, but basically you're telling us the houses are going to stay in basically the same footprint as they are, a little bit better, on some moving a little bit away, up on piers, pilings, that's great.
Correct.
When the marsh does come in, it can just wash through. All right, I think I'd like to go out there with Bob and Bob Gray and Brad, is it? Did yours? Yeah.
Yeah, we understood Bob was going to do a site visit. I didn't realize that it was, I think the Board of Health agent went out, there were a bunch of people that already did go out. We didn't realize the extent of it. But we can certainly do that again. I can line Brad up.
I think that's the big concern, is the septic,
Sure,
you know.
sure.
Of course, the septic will be better. Do the cesspools, did they fail completely?
They physically haven't failed an inspection, but they certainly would
Okay.
if an inspection was done on them.
So something has to be done.
Something has to be done there. We did do perk tests in that location where we're proposing the septic. The Board of Health witness was there for those. The commission has looked at septic systems in similar scenarios.
Yeah.
There's a septic system at the end of Bayberry, right when you make the corner at the
Right.
bottom, which services the
Yeah.
4 houses at the end.
Yeah, yeah, we did it.
And number 60 Bailey's Causeway, which is just on the other side of the marsh, same thing. And we encountered similar soil characteristics at both of those sites where you did have some peat. There was obviously a salt marsh there at one point. I think that's probably the scenario here. The salt marsh probably over time, has received fill. It's obviously changed.
Okay.
If it did turn out to be wetland, what would be the alternative that you would have to propose for the septic?
Okay.
So a tight tank is only permittable by the DEP. In my experience with tight tanks is typically you have to prove that you cannot physically put a soil absorption system on the site. I don't know if they would consider that a limiting factor or not, but they would have to allow you to put in, at a minimum, a tight tank. The septics that we're proposing, they're two-bedroom septic systems. The houses that are there are two-bedroom houses. We're not going for any increase in flow.
Right. And I do understand both houses are going up, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I know you said it on the first one, I might have missed it on the second. Thank you, I'm good.
Paul?
You've got two houses, and they're gonna be conforming when you're done. You've got cesspools, you're gonna put a septic, which is an improvement. I can see wanting to hammer out where the resource areas are, but, you know, at the end of the day, to me, it seems like the whole project is an improvement to what exists.
Yeah.
Lisa?
I agree with pretty much what's been said, and I too would like to go out to the site and then get the feedback from Bob.
Jen?
Yeah, same comments, just most interested in the, where the wetlands are on the right-hand side.
Amy, you want to add to this tonight?
No, I mean, it sounds like everyone's getting it all out there. I mean, so the concern about the salt marsh in that area is actually tied to 310 CMR 10.32. So that would be the limiting factor on installing an SAS within the salt marsh. So we really do need to iron that out as to whether it is. In circumstances where the two reviewers are not in agreement, usually we bring in a third-party person. Bob is suggesting we try to get state staff out there to try to weigh in on it, who may have experience in other locations, similar circumstance, to share some opinions with us. I like that idea personally. Also, we were gonna get copies of the structural plans.
The pilings.
Yeah, which Greg is in process of getting us that info. So, yeah, that's it. I think we just wanted to open it up and hear about our concerns and get the main issues out.
Okay. The audience, want to speak to this?
Yes, I'm Janie Davidson. I live 34 Bailey's Causeway, so I'm right next to the two properties here. One issue that didn't come up was the amount of flooding that happens on these two properties, and the water stays there for long periods of time, whether it's tied to a storm or to a high tide, such as during the month of March, it will flood 3 to 4 feet of water and will just stay there, which makes it, even though you're elevating the houses, it makes access to the houses not possible. So you're either trapped in the house or you can't get to the house. So I understand elevating the house will remedy that, but then, improve the access to the houses. And I noticed, looking at this plan, there is talk of fill, and there's talk of the septic system, and putting, if I'm interpreting it right, 3 feet of fill. I'm not sure. It looks like the septic, the proposed septics would, I wasn't sure if the fill is just for the septic area or if it's for the whole entire properties.
Sure. So where the septics are going to the right of the front house.
Okay.
And you're right, there's about 3 feet of fill. The elevation there right now is about elevation 6 to 7.
Okay.
Over the septic, we're coming up to elevation 10, so about 3 feet of fill. That also serves as the new driveway. We'll be parking over the septic system at that
Okay.
location.
So the septic will be underground and then it will come up, and so from you said the current is 6, and then what would standing on top of the septic with the fill be? What would that finished grade be?
So the finished grade over the septic system is elevation 10.
Okay.
That's the finished grade.
Okay.
What's the grade next to the property, so it'd be Jane's property?
So,
It looks like it goes uphill there, kind of.
so her property goes uphill, right at the lot line. It starts at elevation 9. It comes all the way up. Her first floor. Is at elevation 17.1, which is, where we're gonna be with our first floor.
But is the fill that's placed for the septic system, is that going to be higher than the adjoining property?
A foot.
It's gonna be about a foot higher than the adjoining, so between the two properties would be a valley. They've provided fill in her front yard up to the lot line, and it drops off. This would essentially be the same, and you'd have a gully between the two lots.
Got it.
How wide?
Maybe
Won't be
2
there.
to 2 feet.
Yeah, that's all.
Because I had a question also about on the plan, it's not labeled on the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There's a proposed wall, and I don't know if that's what this is. It's like a chain. It looks like on that one and then on,
Yeah, so to help reconcile the grades here, we did put a wall along a piece of that. It's 5 feet onto
Yeah.
my applicant's property. So 5 feet off would be a wall. So
and
there
how
wouldn't,
high would that be?
that wall from elevation 9 up to 10, 10 and a half. So about
So
a
it
foot and a
only-
half to 2 feet.
Okay. Because where my property, it doesn't show it on this map, but the house is in the back, the existing house is here, and it's, the existing footprint will now be double the size of where it is. They're moving it forward and they're doubling the size of it. And my property, my home is
No, they're
right
not.
here, and it doesn't
Right.
show,
It-
it's not doubling the
It's-
size of the footprint?
No,
So we're adding a whole second floor to it. The footprint is bigger than the back house. The
Just
front,
looking-
the
just
front house
eyeballing
is
it,
exactly
it
the
looks-
same.
Yes.
The back, it is,
It
I mean,
almost
it is
looks like
bigger.
this house would fit in here twice. So that's why, so I should ask them, I shouldn't say, I should ask, what is the increase in the size of the footprint?
this one looks bigger, not bigger.
the one in the,
Yeah,
they're the exact same house, front and back. It's a 40 by 24 footprint,
Of the new house?
the new house. is
And do we know
40
what
by
the old
24.
one was, Greg?
So the old one is 24 by 26.
So it's a lot bigger,
Yeah.
but it's not
So
double,
that's
but it's a lot bigger.
substantial increase in the footprint.
Mm-hmm.
But
The
it's
one
an
in the
elevated
front-
footprint.
Well, it's also there is the elevation, but I'm not talking about the second level. I'm just talking about the size of it. So if it stayed where it was, but now the whole house is moving forward and doubling in the footprint, that you also have that house, this house, and then you have the two proposed septic systems, which will have fill on top. And then I note on the wall, you also have a guardrail. So I was just interested in the water running off my property, that where will it go when it meets the wall and the foundation of this home?
Sure.
okay.
So the water that comes off of your property, your front yard is filled and directs it to my client's property. It would hit that retaining wall, and then it would run along the retaining wall to the back, to the salt marsh.
Okay. And when you're talking about the fill, you said that this would still be a foot below my land. So in other words, because I'm concerned about the swimming pool effect, when this becomes full, that it doesn't now start to move over to my property, assuming that all of this doesn't absorb, that
Sure.
it stays within the square area on this property, that then my property doesn't turn into the swimming pool that this tends to become.
So, to that hard chain, when we have a large area like this, a marsh like that, to add, although it seems like a lot of fill, to add a relatively small amount of fill to a fairly large area, it's almost immeasurable. They call it compensatory storage, and essentially, it would be like putting a marble in a bathtub.
Okay, as long as it
Yeah.
has a place to
Right,
go.
it's a good question. What happens though, when the ocean comes in, whether or not you have a driveway raised, the ocean's gonna come into the same level.
Right,
Um,
but it won't create like a platform, I guess is my concern, that, because the water will fill so quickly that it has nowhere to go.
It'll be the same level.
Yeah, the same.
So- Some of the runoff, I mean, they think they have to address that swale or whatever, so that that water is directed
Straight back.
either towards
Yeah.
Bailey's Causeway or towards the marsh.
And rain runoff, yes,
Right.
yeah.
Not just a flooding in the marsh, but to make sure it doesn't hold back water that flows there.
And if this were a vacant lot today, or if both of them were vacant lots, would a house with this footprint and this footprint and these two existing septic systems be allowed?
Probably not.
Just because you can see the size of the lots are large, but it's not all buildable. And so it's
Right.
all kind of squished into this area, and I feel like there's not too much land left as
Mhm.
far as just this area. And also, I didn't see anywhere on here about plantings or putting back anything onto the surface of the area.
Sure. Just by way of reference, I'm looking at the site plan that was approved for your house. 36R is actually an 11,000 square foot lot. So it's bigger than the lot that your house is currently on.
That's right.
We do call that the entire gravel driveway area be loamed and seeded, which is all immediately adjacent to the salt marsh right now. That is called out on the plan. The specific plantings we don't have on there, but we can certainly add those.
And I'm not sure how that's relevant to the size of my lot, because my lot is not in the wetlands.
It's
And so
entirely
I-
within the floodplain.
It's in the floodplains, but it's not in the same sort of 50-foot buffer as this is. So I'm able to use the majority of my lot.
So we're gonna be taking a lot more information on this. There's a difference right off the bat. When you applied for permits, so you saw this whole
Right,
process
right.
go by relatively shortly, you know, you've seen what happens. This wetlands line was derived, and at the time, the commission accepted that line without review. Sometimes we look for a person to come in and take a look at that wetland line. And sometimes folks feel like it's a waste of time or it's an unnecessary expense on the applicant. So the commission will look at some of these and see whether it's gonna have an impact on the project. And whether we should have got a review of that line for your project, we might have come up with a different wetlands line. In all three cases, there were pre-existing buildings, your house and these ones. So the commission looks at some of these differently than a virgin lot. So if we were building on something from scratch and someone came in and was in this low area, flood area, potentially a marsh area, we wouldn't really be spending a lot of time at this. They could make an application, but the only one that would win would be the engineer doing a little bit of work on it if they wanted to pay him after he did that, but it wouldn't go very far. But because there are properties on that, the commission can't take property from people. The state in most cases will look at that and say something would be allowed here. So in this particular case, I think what the commission's going to be looking at is, can there be an environmental gain when we're done with this? And I might be speaking for myself personally, but I think we'll be looking at this and saying, what makes the most sense here? Right now, there's cesspools that are in a sensitive area. We'd like to see that corrected. We have houses that are prone to flooding. We have a driveway and whatnot that's in an area that would like to not see that happen. So I think the commission could look at all those things and then make some recommendations. And Amy's point that maybe a third person might be from the state and they can give us some additional guidance. I mean, I'm a little concerned about the expansion of the rear house, that you have pre-existing conditions and people have the right to put stuff back when they want to expand that. Granted, the applicant is trying to move the house further from the wetland line, as would be what would be considered some positive step. But I think the big first question is gonna be actually determining the resource areas that's in. And we've kinda had this issue go on not that long ago out on First Cliff. There was a piece of property that was filled marsh. The first hearing on it was an RDA, an ANRAD, and it was determined through the state, through our work, that it was actually filled, so therefore it was unbuildable, and it was appealed, and the state upheld our decision. And then there was another one where wetlands lines went back and forth. So I feel pretty good about the engineer that the town's already retained to do this. I made a quick stop the day that he was out there. We looked at vegetation. Back when I first got on this commission, we had a hearing with Herringbrook Meadows. And what we asked is that the applicant didn't disturb the area. They were farming that field. And in both this and the First Cliff one, we said, don't farm that field, don't touch it, let it grow for a season. Let us look at what vegetation is actually coming up here, because some of that will have an impact on determining, and the applicant didn't cut that, and we can see certain things growing up in here. So I think there's gonna be a lot more to determine, and going back and forth on this line. The other thing, Greg, I would ask is it necessary to add additional fill? Like you're essentially creating a slope to hold that septic system in place. Can a septic system be built within a retained area? In other words, if there weren't fill placed on that at all?
Just within a retaining wall boundary.
Right.
It absolutely could. I don't see why it couldn't, put it that
Okay.
way.
I mean, if we determine, depending on the outcome of what this material is, and these houses are on piers, then potentially what we would want is smaller ground area disturbed as possible. So I'm just tossing some
Right.
thoughts out here tonight, but if that weren't filled at all, and they were bound to just that area where the septic system would go, it would be less material put there, et cetera. I know also that at some point, somebody allowed like a little berm or something to be built to protect this property.
Yeah, back when Bailey's Causeway was raised, I think it came up about 2 to 3 feet in elevation. The property owner, Mr. Walden, he did come into the commission and was given permission, I think, to construct a berm with a pipe to help alleviate some of the runoff at that point.
Okay. Did we get a, like a minor activities or an RDA or anything to do the perk test there?
No.
I mean, those are just first off the cuff kind of thoughts, but I think probably getting back into that resource area and then thinking about where we go with this. I think that's a whole balance that the commission will want to look at.
Yeah.
Jane, do you have any other
I
questions?
just have 2 more questions. You said he purchased the property in 1977 or 1979. And then when were they turned into 2 lots? Because they were traditionally 1 lot for a very long time.
Sure, in 2001, the town approved a subdivision of the property.
And again, noting the size of the house in the rear, the expansion of the footprint, it looks like that's why the both septics are on this front property. And you wouldn't consider shortening the frontage of this house or the backage, however this is, and then moving, I don't know what's involved with having 2 septics on one property or over the property line.
Sure. We were very fortunate in the case here because Mr. Walden owns both properties. To site a septic system on the back property, which typically we do, typically we keep the septic on the same lot as the house, it would be within the 50-foot buffer zone. But because we have the ability here to kick it almost entirely outside the 50, we're providing it within an easement on that front lot. That's the only reason it's located there. To put it on that back lot would be inside of the 50-foot buffer.
If that's where the buffer winds up being.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so this house remains within the 50, well, both houses are within
Yeah.
the 50 foot,
Yes.
but the septics are outside.
Yes.
None of it's in a good spot.
No.
And that's just as depicted on the plan because we're not in agreement about what the resource area line is. So the whole, or much more of the lot could be resource area. That's what we're going to try to determine.
But at the end of the day, they'll be entitled to 2 houses in the existing footprints, and then you can debate the septic if the state is going to let them put a tight tank or just let them put a septic in.
Greg, the perk tests,
Yes.
how many test holes did you do on that? I mean, we're not in the business of designing a system, but oftentimes we do look at it. When we look at locations of septic systems, our preference would be to see them as far away from a resource area or whatever. That's virtually impossible
Yeah.
here, and it looks like that corner is the correct spot to put one if it's gonna be there.
Yeah, so that's typically how we start. We look at the location so that I can stay as far away from your jurisdiction as possible.
Well, can I type in that there's a resource area across the street that's not on the plan either, which would put that in the 50-foot, that corner in the 50-foot too?
Sure. So I started in the front right corner. We did 2 perk tests in that front right lawn area. It was an existing lawn. And then from there, we did 2 additional test pits between the houses, which were obviously inside of the 50-foot buffer, just to see if the soil was different or better in any way. But it wasn't. So that's how we chose that front right corner. Your agent is correct. On the opposite side of Bailey's Causeway, there is a salt marsh there. It's not depicted on my site plan here, though. Bailey's Causeway is 40 feet in width, the right-of-way itself. The commission did approve the line on Miss Davidson's property here, which is, again, still a valid line at this point. These septic systems would be outside of the 50-foot buffer from that approved line. I agree, the 100-foot buffer is obviously going to touch our property, and I will add that to the plan. But it still is outside the 50 from that.
Okay.
And so you said, just one last thing, you said the top of the, when the finished grade is on top of the septic as proposed, you said that's
Elevation 10.
10, okay. Because it says the top of the wall is 10, and I was trying to do all that math. You said the wall's like a foot above the ground?
On your side.
On your side.
Right, oh, so on your side, there's.
On our side, it's flush with the finished ground on top.
And then, how high is the guardrail?
Typically, they're about 30 inches or so. It's just to prevent, because that's the new driveway there, it's to prevent someone from driving off the edge of the wall.
Okay. And would there be, but going back to the plantings or anything, would there be any trees along in that area?
I haven't specified plantings other than we would be providing plantings within the driveway area, the existing gravel driveway.
When the commission looks at these things, sometimes part of mitigation, I think you're aware of it,
Yeah.
the commission would look at it and say, what vegetation could be added
Right.
in different places as mitigation for allowing work in a resource area.
Oh, I don't know, Mike, you press those 2.
So we could ask about potential plantings either at that location or possibly in the marsh area, or some restoration or some removal of, like, the gravel driveway or something like that. So, and I'm just, at this point, we're all talking about. Right?
Press this, I guess.
That's the old style. The new ones don't have.
And your name?
Shirley Davidson.
Yeah, I thought 3 years old, yeah.
Guardrail, would that be metal or wood?
Typically, it would be a wood in a residential application.
Okay. And the other thing is, on the septic systems, it was mentioned in another hearing that they would be the kind that car could drive over.
Yeah,
Correct.
Is that something new?
no,
No,
No?
there's always been septics you can drive over.
yeah.
And the last thing is the safety issue. I've had my house for 50 years, and I noticed that in the winters, each time it floods, it seems to be more frequent now and stay longer and happens faster. In other words, somebody could be in their house and be unaware and think they're just gonna get a little puddle or something. And it just comes by so fast. And not last winter, but the winter before, the woman who was renting in the front house had to be rescued by boat because it went up so high, she couldn't get out of her house.
Right.
And it sits there for like 3 or 4 days, so people can't get back to their houses.
Right.
So that was just another issue.
It's all a concern. You know, ideally, at the end of the day, it's an improvement. We'll have to weigh out all these pieces.
My concern was, is 3 feet of fill enough to prevent what's been happening down there?
It's not gonna change.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they need to fill as much for their septic system, essentially, is what they'd be looking at. The houses are now gonna be on piles, so they'll be higher.
When you say piles, you mean like,
Driven piers, posts, like telephone poles.
right, and do they cover the,
There's no foundation.
right?
So
It's
that
not-
actually changed from the zoning board then, because they had said at the zoning board that it was gonna be a concrete wall with smart fence.
It-
So,
Yeah, yeah, that's changed since
Okay.
zoning. It's gonna be a piling foundation.
When you say pile, you mean like,
Wooden
Poles.
wooden
Yeah.
poles that are driven into the ground.
so there'd be like a big space under the house?
Correct.
Yeah, and the water can flow. You don't have a cellar. There's no cellar in these
No.
houses.
And this,
Good.
and these are 3 stories, right? These houses?
I don't know, does
Two.
this-
Two.
does
Two.
it have any?
There's a first floor and a second floor.
Oh, it was at the
So
zoning
that's
board of
changed as
appeals,
well?
it was 3.
You're not allowed to have a 3-story house in Scituate. 35 feet's the max height, which is 2.5 stories.
What's it in front of the zoning for, Greg?
It had to go in front of zoning because the houses don't comply with setbacks for lot lines, and then the rear lot has 0 frontage. So they did go to the zoning board, they received unanimous approval at that point as Raise and Reconstructs.
Anybody else?
Nope.
How much time, Amy,
Yeah.
to continue this?
Well,
We're gonna have to have,
we can continue it to the 17th, but I'm not entirely optimistic we'll.
are we gonna, I think we should try to be scheduling a meeting, another on-site
Yeah,
with
that.
Brad,
That's not my tone.
you.
So as soon as we can put that together, we can
I don't know how
keep
to
it
turn
moving.
this thing off.
Right.
I know my state contact is off until the 8th. So,
What's the next meeting after the
First.
17th?
the 1st.
Can we continue out to the 1st and we'll
July
try
1st?
to get an on-site meeting as soon as we can?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best.
Sounds good.
Do we, I know I was in the office, Mr. Bossy was here asking some questions, and we kind of told him that we didn't think there was going to be a lot that was going to happen at this meeting. Have we had any other interest from abutters? I was actually surprised.
Bossy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Mr. Bossy was, I think,
okay,
so 3 different parties.
okay.
So we need a motion to continue to July 1st? I
I'm-
make that motion.
Second.
Well, wait a minute. I make a motion to continue.
No, I just made the motion, Penny.
And I second
I
it.
know, but
All in
what
favor?
time? 6:20.
6:20, July 1st.
Okay, second, somebody.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You get so flustered when somebody else does
I think
that.
you'll be our first one on July 1st, right?
I don't know how to shut this thing.
What is July 1st? What's the date?
It's Monday.
Give me that picture quick. I gotta
I'm
show
gonna put
something.
them together.
Yeah.
Okay,
Never mind, I'll do it later.
certificates of compliance?
So, I'm gonna issue 9 Hawthorne and 704 Country Way.
Okay. Anything else?
Orders to be signed. We're gonna ratify enforcement order for 24 Webster Street.
Amy, what's the asterisk for?
It was added
Okay.
because we amended this agenda.
Oh, I got
Well,
you.
we got some orders of conditions.
Have we ever
I
heard
just
back
did
from
those.
them on that?
Did you?
Who?
24 Webster?
Did you?
Yes, this is the enforcement
Okay.
order. So we're gonna memorialize what you guys agreed to.
Okay.
It's a fancy word.
Yeah, we just
It hasn't been
sent
done
it.
yet.
Oh,
I just
because
sent it
they're
to you.
waiting for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else on agents report? Anything you want to enlighten us on?
No, we continue to be very busy. We just received like 6 new
Yeah.
applications today. So,
So this was just a tease.
Yeah,
a
tonight,
little
yes.
bit, enjoy it. First, I know, according to Paul, first one in like 9 years that's been this late, so.
Frank, I just picked this new.
Okay.
That's new stuff. It's
We've got
not.
some
Oh.
site inspections, the Glades, maybe Friday morning or Thursday afternoon.
I thought this place is closed Friday.
Yeah, we have,
Oh, we have training. I forgot about that. Oh, okay.
Because I'm perfectly available Friday.
Maybe we should try to get to a couple, maybe Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
Is there a Toll Brothers meeting this week?
I sent you an email, yep. We have a Toll Brothers meeting
When's that?
Wednesday.
What time? Do you remember?
10:30.
Here or
Here.
on site?
Yeah, no, it's in-house
You do the
meeting.
No.
Oh, okay, you tease them.
Well, let's think about,
We also wanted to get to Go Green.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
could
That's the
do
one I
Thursday
wanna go.
afternoon also.
okay.
I could work.
Yeah.
Thursday
okay.
afternoon.
All
Thursday
right.
can work.
Well, so let's look at the weather.
Um,
We don't want to do it in the rain, but as long as the weather's clear, which it looks like it's pretty
The
favorable,
last
right?
I heard, Wednesday night was the only rain. But
Oh, I
that
don't
can
know.
change.
I have a thunder thing on Thursday.
I heard Thursday was raining.
Well, let's not worry about it right
Yeah.
this minute.
Yeah.
It's
It'll-
always
it'll
subject
change.
to
Whatever it is,
change.
it's going
Yeah.
to change anyway.
Yeah.
Did you figure out anything on Glades Road? Was it 113?
Yeah.
Did you and Bob get a chance to?
Yes. So
Yeah, Thursday rain.
he did do some foundation work, and he's going to be submitting an application. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yes. That's from both building department and conservation, yeah. Thanks for reminding me about that one, because that one, it seems like 2 weeks ago, I was hot to trot on that one with Bob. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting property.
Well, there was a deck, there's a lot of unpermitted projects popping up, so keep your eyes open.
Oh, I love to keep my eyes open.
Yeah, over the weekends, people like to
Oh, sure.
do stuff.
On the dog park,
Yeah.
I see a lot of chit chat, and I haven't driven. I try to keep my eyes on the road as opposed to. But can they put up a sign or something saying this is going to be a dog park? Because people are all in a huff about like land being desecrated, but it's like not because it's actually something is good is happening to it, but people just think it's a development.
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
using
mean,
people
I
in, like,
can,
very broad sweeping
that's
terms.
a great point, Jen, and I can bring that up to Sean McCarthy to see if we can get something up. Honestly, the park is gonna be done before you know it. So
Great.
I think it's gonna be completed within like a month or so.
Good. But it wouldn't be bad to have some.
In the meantime, so
Yeah.
people know what it is.
Because it's like,
Future home of Friends of Situate Dog Park or
Do they
something.
have a
Yeah.
DEP sign up?
Yes. Yeah, I've been out there. It's right on the edge of Go Green.
it's really
It is,
close.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
which is another reason to go see Go Green.
right.
yeah.
Well, there's parts of it that are in our jurisdiction in terms of proximity to wetlands and then some of conservation property. And we may wind up having to have asking for some survey work or something.
By
to
then.
determine.
Well, remember you and I and.
Yeah, no,
That's
and
when
I
you
drove
took-
off the
There's
edge
land
of the
that's in our
road.
custody, and
That's
then
right.
there's
We
land
did
that
it with
the sewage treatment
Sean
plant.
a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not doing that again.
Okay,
Yeah, I have some orders, can I
sure.
do them? I make a motion, we accept orders of condition for 59 Glades Road as written.
Second.
All in favor?
I make a motion, we accept the orders of condition for Lot 1, Judge Cushing Road as written.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, I'll change that. And I think that's all for
I
me.
think Penny said that we, or you must have heard, we've gone out to bid for the access roads and parking.
Yes.
And we'll have some pre-construction
That is really
construction
good. Yes.
meetings in another couple of weeks, and
It is
hopefully we're-
moving.
When is the bid opening?
It's already open.
Oh, it was awarded?
no.
No, oh,
The bids have gone out.
they've gone
I
out.
think
Right,
Well, that's when
towards
to
the end of the
open to
month or
me.
something. It's a ways out.
okay.
Well, that's open to me.
Yeah.
But the bids went up,
The bids
yeah.
aren't gonna be open.
No, oh, well, oh,
That's when a contract.
you're talking physically opening them, no. I'm talking,
They've been put out to bid.
they've been put out to bid, and that's very
Better
good.
than put out to pasture.
That's right. Listen, they've been in pasture for a long time.
All right. Anything else? Anybody with any,
No, I just have a question for you later. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Glad you raised that.